The patrons have spoken once again, and this time they chose Gallade, the male 4th generation counterpart to the 3rd generation fan favorite Gardevoir, evolving from a male Kirlia when exposed to a Dawnstone. This cool ass Pokemon is based off of gladiators and knights, as evident by its head resembling a helmet, which is freaking awesome. Hell, Gallade's Japanese name is even Sir Knight, which instantly tells me what it's supposed to be, and oh wait, that's Gardevoir's name? Well, I guess Gardevoir didn't live up to its own name, so they needed to make an alternate evolution. I wonder why. Anyways, this gentleman Pokemon embodies the gallant behavior from which it gets its name from, but in battle it's a fearsome foe, blending its 2 blades with psychic abilities. So let's find out how good these tactics were in the competitive scene. How good was Gallade actually? And in this video we'll be talking about these competitive formats. In its debut generation, Gallade was among the most intriguing new Pokemon. The Psychic and Fighting type, despite existing with Medicham in the generation prior, was more appealing on Gallade since it had a superior fighting stab in close combat, as well as Swords Dance and Shadow Sneak, a terrific priority move for a fighting type since it would destroy faster ghosts and psychics. Stab Zen Headbutt was also terrific in those early days when Weezing was a prominent fighting type check. It also had other neat tools such as an extremely powerful Leaf Blade to eviscerate Swampert in a way few other non-grasses could. It could even try its hand at support with the unique combination of Will-O-Wisp and Wish. Some even used gimmicky bulk-up sets along these 2 moves to make use of its excellent special defense, another rare trait for a fighting type, although this never truly caught on. While Gallade never made an enormous impact on overuse, it was seen quite often through Diamond and Pearl, and was a fine choice, although it mostly disappeared for quite some time as the new toy syndrome wore off around the release of Platinum. However, later in the generation, Lead Machamp was terrorizing everything in sight, and as such, Gallade rose to prominence as a similarly effective hard-hitting fighting type lead, with priority to dispose of Focus Sashes that also happened to utterly dominate Machamp. Its extra speed was also useful in outpacing Heatran, meaning it didn't have to fear being melted by a Choice Specs overheat. It gained quite a bit of popularity among those in the know and remains a fine choice today. Not fearing Nidoqueen is a huge boon as well, since Machamp sometimes struggles to do significant damage to those kinds of semi-stall teams, and faster Rotom forms as well as Starmie get hit hard by Shadow Sneak. Gallade's low OU usage also predictably led it to a few stints and underused, but it was much too powerful there. It utterly tore everything in its path apart, with very few Pokemon being capable of standing in its way and not being completely destroyed, and thus it was banned to borderline, but luckily it is one of the more usable Pokemon in that limbo tier. Now on to Black and White. Gallade unfortunately doesn't really contribute anything in the weather-infested metagame. In the fledgling stages of the tier, there were rare uses of it as a Conkeldurr counter that did decently against sand teams and their Ferrothorn, Latios, Gliscor combinations with Bulk Up, Shadow Sneak, and Ice Punch, but other trends such as Reuniclus and Mew slowly pushed whatever small niche it might have had out of consideration for the rest of the generation as far as overuse was concerned. It's still not the most awful thing in the world, but it has been 100% out of sight for about 7 of Black and White's currently 8 years. In underuse, it wasn't used too much, but it was a fine choice, ranging from standard Swords Dance sets to bulk up variants with the newly buffed Drain Punch to Choice Band or Scarf sets that could even pull off Trick. However, its usage landed it a spot in rarely used, where it really hit its stride. Despite the ubiquity of Spiritomb, it was an excellent offensive threat that tore through most of the metagame. It even could pull off a great specially defensive set with Wish, Protect, Will-O-Wisp, and Drain Punch that handled dangerous Pokemon such as Special Sceptile, Magmortar, and Amistar. It was never overwhelming with any of its sets, but it was a fiercely consistent part of the metagame and helped define the tier for some time. And on to VGC in 2012, although not a standard part of the metagame, Gallade actually found itself at top 8 of Worlds in the Seniors division with Gavin Michaels, who used a Choice Band variant that could trick and cripple bulky walls, notably Cresselia, but also Thundurus, Rotom Wash, and Amoonguss. But other than that, it was definitely not commonly used, and even Gavin Michaels himself wasn't too high on it. When Terrakion's speed and Escavalier's bulk exist alongside their ability to hit really hard, it's tough to find a reason for Gallade, who lacks both of those traits. Also, it seems Trick was a much needed addition because it otherwise naturally struggles against the aforementioned bulky Pokemon. Then in 2013, while still unconventional, Gallade found itself used a little bit more this year, thanks to its access to Trick Room and Feint to blow through Protect trying to stall turns out. April Hooge reached 26 at Worlds in the Seniors division, while TJ's unorthodox Trick Room team, featuring not just Gallade but Octillery and Dusclops, went 6 at 3 victory at the Nationals. Joseph Brummett also reached 10th at Georgia Regionals with one. And even though Gallade did place these few times, it's still largely outclassed by all the other hard hitters of the meta. Now on to Gen 6, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire gifted Gallade a Mega Evolution to go alongside its counterpart Gardevoir. It fixed the issue of its subpar speed by boosting it all the way to an excellent 110. Unfortunately, it couldn't always find a safe place to Mega Evolve. And not only were Clefable and Scarf Landorus Therian omnipresent, Mega Gallade also faced stiff competition with other Megas, such as Metagross, who shared its speed tier and had excellent typing, and Medicham, who shared its typing and was slower but much more powerful and could evolve on anything thanks to Fake Out. It wasn't a bad choice, but it was generally overshadowed. It had some spots of usage, but nothing concrete, and wasn't thought about at all at the higher tiers. Its lack of usage knocked it to underuse, but Mega Gallade was way too powerful for that tier, as everything was slower, weaker, and less bulky. In short, prime food for a simple Swords Dance set to slice everything apart without a speck of effort. So Mega Gallade was put in borderline. Meanwhile, its regular form returned to rarely used. There, the new fairy type Infestation did it absolutely no favors, as even a buffed knockoff wouldn't get it too far against them. Thus, it languished as one of the more unspectacular Pokemon in the tier, especially since it faced tough fighting type competition with Virizion. Now on to VGC. Regular Gallade was occasionally used in 2014. It's got some cute tricks, such as Wide Guard for spread moves, and Leaf Blade to help with annoying water types like Rotom Wash. In fact, it was on the winning team of Corey Connor, who got first place at the US Nationals in the junior division, with a variant that had Wide Guard, Protect, Leaf Blade, and Close Combat. As for more Gallade placements, Toadler Web also reached 57 at Worlds with a strange Trick Room Helping Hand Will-O-Wisp variant that was meant to help his Mawile. But unfortunately, Gallade's tough to make work with a metagame of Talonflame and Aegislash, the latter which also outclasses it as a Wide Guard user. And unfortunately, in the years following 2014, despite getting a Mega, Aegislash continued to reign, and the other new Megas such as Salamence that came in afterwards, in addition to the existing ones such as Kangaskhan, Lucario, and the Charizards, all of these Megas just outclassed Gallade completely, which probably explains why we couldn't find any notable placements for years 2015 and 2016. And in Sun and Moon, Mega Gallade wasn't released at first, but enjoyed some surprising use when it was, as people realized how excellent its instant 350 speed could be thanks to the new evolution mechanics. In addition to terrain support from the Tapus really helping it out, it became quite a legitimate threat. It made more of an impact on overuse than its ORAS counterpart, and is still seen at times today. It specializes in destroying Celesteela plus Toxapex-based defensive teams, and its 350 speed is excellent for getting the jump on staples such as Kartana. Zen Headbutt from it is also really fierce against its would-be counter Clefable if Tapu Lele's Psychic Terrain is in the picture. The popularity of Reuniclus and Tornadus Therian doesn't help it much, but it's a fine choice that puts common Pokemon such as Heatran and Zygarde on the back foot immediately, and isn't knocked over by a light wind. While it's got mega competition in Mawile, Medicham, Alakazam, the Lati Twins, and the Charizards, it still manages to carve out quite a usable niche for itself. It won't top the usage charts, but it's definitely got its place, and right now remains in borderline once again. Meanwhile, regular Gallade suffered from power creep and is only not in PU because it was way too powerful for it. It barely has viability in NU, but with the popularity of Passimian, it doesn't look like it's going to break into regular usage anytime soon. And as for VGC Sun and Moon, in 2017, it wasn't allowed. And in 2018, we unfortunately couldn't find any notable placements for Gallade or its Mega form. And considering that in 2018, the Mega Stones were allowed back, it's probably safe to assume that the same Megas as well as some other new Pokemon still outclass Gallade, not to mention how much it hates Intimidate. And that's it. So how good was Gallade actually? In short, it was pretty decent. It had a ton of highly unique attributes for a fighting type by virtue of its secondary psychic typing. It fortuitously got a Mega that allowed it to compete at the highest level. Otherwise, it would have become another victim of power creep. In VGC, it was the nichest of the niche, and overall pretty gimmicky. While it wasn't a horrible Pokemon, the existence of others such as Terrakion, Aegislash, and the later influx of the tremendous Megas certainly made it forgettable, to say the least. To conclude, Gallade was a solid Pokemon. Not a superstar by any means, but it was always a strong good choice to dish out some good old-fashioned fighting type damage, with a nice psychic type blend to top it off. Though I still wonder if Wally made the right choice of the Ralts family in the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. Thanks for watching, everyone. Shoutouts to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and of course for voting for this Pokemon. And as always, if you liked the video and want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False White Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And as always, as I always say, comment on what Pokemon you want to see next. And follow my crew on these social media platforms, yada yada yada. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.